The Cardinals have some big-time playmakers on both sides of the football.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? And welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering the University of Louisville, 4th year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already, but we are continuing in our 5-episode Top 15 Player Rankings series for this upcoming football season. Numbers 15 through 13 on Monday. Numbers 12 through 10 yesterday. And now today, we're identifying numbers 9 through 7, respectively. All three of these players, playmakers on one side of the football or the other. We'll talk about a star in the making on defense, the top rated defensive transfer looking to have a huge season, and then a big time playmaker on the offensive side of the football. We'll tell you who those players are. But first, today's episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. To give you a little bit of a refresher, the rankings up until this point: number 15, Rodney Johnson Jr., number 14, Renee Conga, number 13, Jordan Gerard, number 12, Wesley Bailey, number 11, TJ Quinn, and number 10, Adonijah Green have all been identified in the past two shows. Of course, these rankings, it's all about opinion. For me, there are sort of like 4 subcategories that combine to form my judgment and opinion. Those 4 categories are overall talent, the player's value to the team in respect to the position they play, projected statistical production, and how they compare with other players across the conference at the same position. And there's no one category that means more than the other or holds more weight. It's really just kind of a matter of context. So I listed off the 6 that we've discussed so far, all on the defensive side. We're going to continue that trend to start the show today. Number 9 is outside linebacker Antonio Watts. Antonio Watts, 6'2", 225 pounds, from Columbus, Georgia, has appeared in 2 seasons for the Cardinals. 2023, he had 30 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. Was a rotational player at that star position, that outside linebacker and coverage spot. And then he was able to take that up a notch in 2024. 51 total tackles. He had more solo tackles in 24 than he had total tackles in 23. 20 of his 51 tackles in 24 assisted, 3 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. And Antonio Watts, he's a player that you can hear him play even without seeing him, because like I mentioned with TJ Quinn yesterday, this guy lays the boom. Violent hits. I mean, you can hear it. It's just like one of those, you can be up in the flight deck and hear the contact that he's able to make. As a recruit in that 2022 class, was, if I remember correctly, a late addition to the class. Satterfield's last class, actually. 1,600 was his ranking nationally. And I remember watching his huddle tape and some of the film saying that, this guy, I mean, he seems like he's much better than number 1,600, but even then, not every player is a diamond in the rough. 2022, of course, didn't log a single statistic. And then when Braum joined the Cardinals program, was able to see his career continue to take off. And I believe that Antonio Watts is a star in the making for this Cardinals defense. I tweeted out a video about 2 weeks ago or so stating just that. I think that with Ben Perry now going to, what is it, UCLA? Is that where Ben Perry is? Antonio Watts is the projected starter at that star spot. I think that we saw sort of you could call it a breakout year last year. I think we're going to see even more of a breakout season this year. And I think that it's going to come in terms of like reliability, more so than like statistical production. Like 51 total tackles as an outside linebacker, I feel like is a good number. Is that number going to rise? I think it is, but truthfully, it's going to be about reliability. I think that defending the middle of the field is where Antonio Watts is going to help improve this team the most, because the Cardinals got gashed last season, seemingly from the very beginning to the very end, of receivers just running wide open between the hash marks. And something's got to change. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's personnel. It's probably a little bit of column A, column B. But I feel like as Antonio Watts is getting more comfortable in that role, he is a year older, another year in this system. And of course, the natural progression in his game, like, we know the type of a violent hitter that he can be. Like, he is great in pursuit. He's great getting downhill towards the line of scrimmage. Pretty solid in run support too. But I think where Antonio Watts can definitely improve, just from a consistency aspect, is his coverage ability. And he has made some pretty solid plays in his career as a Cardinal. Like, I think back to the game-winning play last year, the 2-point conversion. If he doesn't knock that ball down, Washington wins the Sun Bowl. So he had a huge play there. Had a pass deflection against Clemson, against Boston College, against Georgia Tech. He played really solid ball against some of the top teams that the Cardinals went up against, which is really, really encouraging heading into 2025, where he is going to see an increased role outside of, he was a rotational piece, key to the group, but now you're going to rely on him to play a pretty significant role. So, of course, he's going to split time with other players, and that's why he's only at number 9 in this list. Truthfully, he's a star in the making. It would not surprise me if he finds his way onto an all ACC selection list at the end of this season. I think he's going to have that good of a year, but you'll understand when I talk about the 8 players ahead of him, like the amount of production, where those players rank amongst their peers in the conference. That's why those players kind of get a nod at the moment. But Antonio Watts is also going to be splitting time with other players. You look at the linebackers. Caleb Perry, the Tennessee transfer, I think is going to be sort of a Swiss Army knife for this defense. He's going to play multiple spots. So he's going to, I think, one Perry is going to take over some of the other Perry's snaps from last season. Trent Carter, would not surprise me if he gets floated out at that star spot occasionally. JoJo Evans, according to some, like, he was running with the ones at the star early on in fall camp. So that's something to keep an eye on. Transfer from Florida International. So there's a couple players that are going to be in contention for snaps at the star spot. And I think that Antonio Watts is versatile as well. Like, you can deploy him in that defense in multiple different ways, but he's number 9 because he's going to have to split some of the duties. Now, he is at number 9 and ahead of some of these other players because I think Watts has one of the higher ceilings on the team, like Adonijah Green, but I think that he's more the safer selection because he already has some of that production to his name already, like 51 tackles last year, a couple passes deflected. Like, you're not banking on him to be like a diamond in the rough, where did this guy come from type player. Like, I think that he is over Adonijah Green and TJ Quinn because the ceiling is a little bit higher and he has the production to match up. So if the ceiling isn't as high as someone, the production likely is, and vice versa. So Adonijah Green, number 10, Antonio Watts at number 9. I will say that we are continuing on the defensive side of the ball for number 8, discussing the top-rated defensive transfer to join the Cardinals this offseason. But first, Card Nation, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a large purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat because it's like having your own personal CFO that gives you full visibility and control over your finances, because it's not just a budgeting app. Let me make myself clear on that. It's a complete financial command center. The thing that I have found most useful is just keeping everything all in one place. So I have an understanding of what finances are going where. I understand what subscriptions are active, so I'm not wasting money every month unknowingly. So Monarch Money has so many different opportunities, but the main one is being able to take control of your finances, and you can do that with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. As always, want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Global, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. 7 players have been identified. We are on to number 8. And that player is the top-rated defensive transfer that the Cardinals brought in this offseason, one that Louisville got a commitment from over some solid SEC programs. That player is Coastal Carolina transfer edge rusher Clev Lubin. Clev Luben is a player that I have been very vocally supportive of since he committed to the Cardinals. Like, this is a difference maker on the defensive side. 6'3", 250 pounds, from New York, spent his first season at Army, but redshirted in 2022, went the JUCO route to Iowa Western. Now, at Iowa Western, Lubin had like a road to glory-esque stat line. 23.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. His team won the JUCO D1 National Championship, Iowa Western. And, I mean, that's as good of a season as you could have. And he transferred to the Sun Belt, played for Coastal Carolina this past season, and had another pretty solid, fantastic year. Let's take a look at the numbers. 43 total tackles, 3 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, 1 touchdown, looked like a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and 9.5 sacks. And that's the part of this that you're most excited about as a Louisville fan is, you're replacing all these great edge rushers: Ashton Gelati, Mason Reiger, Tramel Logan, Ramon Purrier, Richard Kenley. I mean, yes, you brought in some transfers that have, less than 5 tackles per season, but still they have the production there. You have some internal candidates that could continue to develop and be ready to rise into that spot. But it would have been nice if Louisville went out and got like I won't say safe, but a player that you can definitely project to be a solid pass rusher in the ACC. And the Cardinals did end up getting that caliber of player, and it was Clev Lubin. And I'll be honest, it was sort of challenging finding the correct place on where to put Clev in this list, because I think he's going to have a great year. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a really successful pass rusher. Like, per PFF, regardless of if a player is returning to the ACC or not, he's got one of the highest pass rush grades of a player that is going to play in the ACC this season. Like, Lubin is a really solid pass rusher. The only thing that you have to question is, well, how is that going to translate to the Power 4? How is that going to translate to the ACC, where the linemen are larger, they're faster, they're stronger? You're also going up against better players in practice, so iron sharpens iron, but there's more competition as well. And I think that that's where Clev Lubin, or that's why Clev Lubin is sitting here at number 8 for me. First team all Sun Belt level guy. I think that he has 2 years of eligibility remaining, which would be huge for the Cardinals in the name of roster continuity if he indeed does play 2 seasons. But I think he's at number 8. He's higher than some of the players like Antonio Watts, Adonijah Green, TJ Quinn. I was going to just name off all defensive players until I realized they are all defensive players. But I think that Clev Lubin is going to be the leading. He's going to be the leading player with the most sacks. Like I think that Clev Lubin is going to have the most sacks. I think I'm going to say 7. I think that that's where the statistical production puts him, and it kind of fits that MO of a by committee approach. Like you don't have a guy that's double digits, but instead you have 5 players or so kind of hovering around that 4 sack number. I think that Clev Lubin leads this team in sacks. I think that from a tackle number, he had 43 tackles last year. I'm going to. One of my main questions is how good of a run defender is he going to be? How well is he going to be able to seal the edge for the Cardinals? I'm going to say 40 tackles for Clev. I think it's going to be a little bit of a smaller step down, 35 to 40 tackles. I think that there will be a little bit of a dip in number due to him jumping up competition levels and playing better competition. But I think that the sack number is still going to be very respectable. And so will the tackle number as well. I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to say 2 forced fumbles and let's say 1 pass deflection. I am not trying to discount the natural progression, Lubin getting better between last year and this year. But as he continues to rise up the ranks of D1 college football, I think it's going to be a situation where, hey, he's going to still face a little bit of competition at that spot too. Like Adonijah Green is number 10 on this list, and he's going to be backing up Clev Lubin. So that's where like Clev doesn't get much higher on this list, because as good as I think he is and he can be, I have a ton of faith in Adonijah Green as well. So I kind of put them very close together, gave Clev the nod because he's more of a polished pass rusher at this point, has more production to his college football resume. But these are going to be guys that are relied upon a ton. And I'm intrigued to see what the snap split is going to look like. I want to see, the total snap numbers after games and see just how many more snaps Lubin gets than Green. Early on in the season, it might be backwards. I think that we could see Green get more snaps than Lubin because you're playing teams that you're supposed to blow out. Now, he's higher on this list than other players because I think that he is the current to-date best pass rusher. I don't think it's that close. Even if the number suggested, I think that Lubin is going to see the most attention from opposing offenses and opposing offensive lines. Like that's going to be the guy that they circle in film study the week prior. I think that he's going to be serviceable defending the run. I think that if he rises up this list, like if we look back on this here in 4 or 5 months and we wonder, well, why did the Lubin rise up this list? I would probably say it's because he showed that he is a much better run defender than maybe it was previously thought. But I think 8 is high. Let me just tell you, because the 7 above him, you got to put him somewhere. And I think that all 7 of these players ahead of him are going to potentially be star level guys. And Clev Lubin is, of course, in that group as well as a star level guy. And I'll tell you the difference between 5 through 8, it's not much. It's just sort of a difference in, one factor over the other. And we'll kind of discuss that a little bit more when we talk about who number 7 is. But I think number 8 is a right spot. Like you're not, expecting him to put up Ashton Gelati 2023 numbers, but you're also not expecting him to be just like a rotational guy. Like I think he's going to be a star level edge rusher for the Cardinals that's going to wreak havoc in opposing backfields all season long, especially in ACC play. So number 9, Antonio Watts. Number 8, Clev Lubin. Number 7, if you were wondering, we are finally going to go to the offensive side of the ball. I promise I didn't forget that the Cardinals do have what is likely going to be a prolific offense in college football this season. Number 7 is a big-time playmaker, potentially one of the top 2 playmakers on this team. We'll tell you who that is when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, I'm going to continue to point out the fact that this is a pre-recorded episode. I am out of town. We will continue through this series throughout the duration of the week. I apologize for not discussing any breaking news. If it does come, hopefully, selfishly, it's a slow news week and there's nothing that I have to like put my AirPods in and record like a 5-minute video discussing. I'll have my laptop. I won't have my microphone or camera or lighting device, or it would just be my laptop just to make sure that everything gets published the way it needs to. But I'm hoping that, news doesn't really pop off until, later in the week when I get back. But regardless, we're going to continue in our player rankings. We are halfway home. Number 7 is the first offensive player. Number 7 is wide receiver Caullin Lacy. Some would have him higher than number 7. And I think some would have him a little lower. But I think that this is a nice sweet spot to put him at because the players over him have more production at the Power 4 level, or I think that they're going to have pretty similar roles on this team. But Caullin Lacy is potentially a top 2 playmaker outside of Isaac Brown. He is a player that when fully healthy, we saw what he was able to do at South Alabama. Like he had a breakout year in 2023, 91 catches, 1,316 yards, which were both top 6 nationally across the FBS. Like he was a fantastic player, played really good against Power 4 teams as well. Oklahoma State, go look back to what he did there. He also had 7 touchdowns in 2 seasons. Well, he had 2 seasons in 2020, 2021, where he was kind of a rotational piece. And then he broke out in 22 and 23, 13 combined tackles in Louisville in 2024. Got hurt in fall camp. You remember he had that broken collarbone, which was supposed to sideline him about 6 to 8 weeks, which at the time, gosh, it's almost like, knock on wood, but it was like just this time last year. I don't know the exact day in which he ended up breaking his collarbone. I'm going to look that up real quick. My apologies there. But it put him out kind of close to that August 17th is when it was announced. So, I mean, that's 2 weeks away. It was, sort of midway closer to the end of fall camp. Ends up coming back for that Notre Dame game. And this was, from what I was told, a game that he had circled and he wanted to be back for. But ultimately, you could just tell he was never fully healthy. 18 catches for 196 yards and a touchdown, 5 for 71 against Notre Dame. And that was his best game of the season. He did have a kick return for a touchdown against Miami. But after that Miami game, he decided to maintain his red shirt, bet on himself, bet on a clean bill of health in 2025. I'll be honest, I even said it. I thought he was going to redshirt and transfer out. He decides to double down on his support and commitment to Louisville. He comes back in this offense, and, he said it in spring. He's like, I fully believe in Miller Moss. Like, I feel better about where I am. I have another season in this room. I have another season in this system. And I think that Miller Moss is sort of a quarterback that's going to be able to help Caullin Lacy unlock that potential, because fully healthy, Lacy is one of the best yards after catch receivers in the country. Like, he is a yak machine. He's not really a deep threat like people think. He's one of those guys where he's going to catch the ball short and he's going to turn that into a big game. So what does that mean in a Miller Moss offense? Well, Miller Moss is a very quick decision quarterback. He makes those reads extremely quickly, doesn't take many negative plays at all. And I think it's a situation where this season, you're going to see Miller Moss finding Caullin Lacy very quickly out in the flat, screen passes, slants over the middle, post routes, like getting him the football and allowing him to operate in space. And when you allow Caullin Lacy to operate in space, good things tend to happen. And I think that that's going to turn into a really, really solid season for the Cardinals. The reason why he is ahead of some other players on this list is because I think that the ceiling is through the roof. And the reason why he's a little bit lower than others is because, well, there still is a little bit of a risk because we still haven't seen what he's potentially been able to do at the Power 4 level. Like, there's no doubt that Caullin Lacy is going to have a really, really, really good season. But what does that look like for the Cardinals? Statistically speaking, this is where things get challenging because let's look back to the previous past 2 seasons. And Louisville ran the ball much more in 2023 than they did in 2024. Like 2023, 2024, Ja'Cory Brooks led the way with 1,013 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. Chris Bell had 737 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then you go back to 2023, and trying to pull that number up. Jamari Thrash had 858 yards. Chris Bell had 407. Now, it would not surprise me at all if Miller Moss has more passing yards and passing touchdowns than Tyler Shuck and, of course, Jack Plummer. The thing I want to know is, well, defensively, other teams are going to be focusing on the rushing attack for the Cardinals, which is going to be the focal point. Statistically, what are the projections for Caullin Lacy? I think he's going to be in that, gosh, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one. I think from a touchdown perspective, I'm going to say 5 touchdowns. I think Caullin Lacy is going to get 5 touchdowns as a receiver. And I think that I'm going to say 2 all-purpose touchdowns, whether that's running the football, whether that is kick return. So I think 7 total touchdowns. I'm going to say Lacy will lead the team. This is where kind of a hot take comes in. I think he's going to lead the team in catches, but Chris Bell is going to lead the team in yards. So I'm going to say like the yardage is, let's go. Man, this is a tough one. I'm going to say 750 for Caullin Lacy and 55 catches. 55 catches and 750 yards for Caullin Lacy. How does that kind of, I'm not sure about 55. Let's go 50. 50 catches, 755 yards, 7 total touchdowns for Caullin Lacy. He's at number 7 in my list. I think he's going to have a fantastic season for the Cardinals this year. One of the more explosive receivers in the conference. Don't forget, number 9, Antonio Watts. Number 8, Clev Lubin. Number 7, Caullin Lacy. Tomorrow, it's all about the offensive side of the ball. We'll tell you who those players are coming up on Thursday's episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow